Okay, so we're going to try recording some stuff for class 5. This is a continuation of the 4-bar graphical synthesis. Here's where we are in the schedule, Monday, January 26th. We're going to cover sections 3.4. I guess there's only one section 3.4. And as I mentioned, three position graphical synthesis is what we're covering, and some SOLIDWORKS implementation. Bottom line up front, we're going to do is we're going to find the center of circles that pass through the connection points. And in this case, we're going to go through 3 connection points. And so because there's 3 points, that's going to be a single, only one possible center of those points. Before we had 2 points we were going through, and we had some leeway as to where we were going to locate those. And this time we're going through 3 points. So each of the points, connection points, has a particular center point, and those are ground points. We'll add a driving dyad to make a Watt, I think it's a Watt 2 6-bar mechanism. It could be a Watt 1. Need to double check that. And here is some motivation. So here's problem 522 out of the book, chapter 5. It's very similar to chapter 3 because it deals with synthesis. So here's a problem that's in that book. And here's if you, there's or in that chapter, and they have multiple problems for each figure. And in this case, they're using the same figure as the next one we'll look at. You can see that they range from problems 521 to 526. This particular one says to go from position 1 to position 3. And here is the solution from the solution manual of what that looks like and the grounds. And sure enough, if you go through the process, you end up at the same place. And you could see, boom, this box is going right through the base. So alternatively, this is problem 525, where it says to go through the 3 positions without regard to these fixed points, right? So they're very close, by the way, these fixed points that they're showing here. But there's another problem where it forces you to go through the fixed points. But here we could just put out the 2 points that we need. And here's the solution up here in the right-hand corner. And so this is what it looks like when you're going through those. Of course, you need to add a driving dyad to this. It's a little bit difficult. It's a challenge to put that driving dyad in there, because if you look at either one of these bars, they almost look like they're very close to being 180 degrees apart from each other. And that turns out to be not so easy to do with the driving dyad. All right, so here's our first example where, I think this is example 3.5 out of the book, where we go through these 3 positions, C1 and D1 to C2, D2, and C3, D3. And here's what's provided in the book, and we're going to walk through it. But you can see you draw lines in between the individual C positions, and then with the midway point and perpendicular line to those lines, you can find the center of the circle that passes through them. And then you do the same thing with the D1, D2, and D3 lines, and you can find the others. So these are the 2 grounds, O2 and O4, that you find from that method. So here I am. I'm going to walk through it again. Here's the line between C1 and C2, and C2 and C3, and then here's the lines perpendicular to them. You can see that they're already ghosted in there, maybe. Here's the line between D1, D2, and D2, D3, and here's the lines perpendicular to them. So you can see that these are the 2 ground points, O2 and O4, that would make up the lines. Then we could draw in the links that go between those grounds to the attachment points, C1's, D1, and you can see that this passes through them. But it's all because there's a center of a circle that it passes through all 3 points. And here is the mechanism that is generated from this. not too bad. I put a driving dyad on here. A problem occurs if this point right up here is just a little off from this one right here. You can see that this one I've kind of cheated and made it start like a little below where the actual attachment point is. So if it were to start above it, here is how the mechanism would work. So that's definitely undesirable, right? It kind of faces through a change point because it was right there near being straight. So that leads up to example 3.6 in the book. This is an interesting one where you might want to make these motions from the C and D position from each of these lines, but you don't necessarily have to have attached at those points. You could find alternate points to attach to, or as they're calling moving pivots. So whatever this like little squiggle looking shape type of thing, you can move this and go through those points, but attach at a different location. So they've chosen E and F. You could say they're arbitrary, but they're not exactly arbitrary. But you just make sure they're in the same orientation with respect to C and D at each of these positions, and then you could use those instead, right? So you're just drawing the lines in between the three E's, E1, E2, E3, and then the three F's. F1, F2, and F3. And now you can find ground points for each of them. And then as I show you here, I've drawn legs from the ground points up and a driving dyad that goes between them. And so here we go. Here is a solution to that, right? And sure enough, you could see that C1, I didn't really draw it on here. Maybe I should have, to make sure we could see that C and D pass through those exact locations that we wanted. So we've gone about that, and we don't have the danger of having a change point like we did in the other mechanism. So we've solved it. A further, much more complicated approach to this is, let's say that we wanted to put the pivots or the grounds exactly where we want it. Like we said, those have to be the ground points. Why? I don't know. Someone told us that they had to be. So that's the reason why we're doing it. We could go through a fairly lengthy process, and I won't make you do this, but I did want it to explain it. I thought that would be useful. Where what we're going to do is we're going to find, essentially we're going to invert and then invert again the mechanism, right? So we're going to go through the process of finding an alternate mechanism, and then we're going to invert it, right? So here's the idea. I'll get out of this and go over to here, because this is the guy. This thing right here is the tool that helps us, right? So let's start out with D2, C2 is D2, and see the orientation of the ground with respect to that, right? So that's this little guy right here. That's this thing right there. We've marked them off. And we could do this graphically, by the way. You could see the little compass marks in the example. That's what's indicating here. So we take this and let's move it over to C1, D1, kind of get close, get the orientation right there, right? So we could do this with a compass, but I'm doing it with this little graphic because I think it kind of makes it kind of a little bit more clear. It was a little cloudy to me when I first looked at it. Okay, so now we have a new line. We could call that O2 prime and O4 prime. And sure enough, they do O2 prime and O4 prime. So this is the next figure, right, from right here. So that's what they've done, right? And then they do it again for D3, C3 and D3, right? So we take this guy, and I'll make him look like there. And now we have now we know where the grounds are with respect to C3, D3. Now let's move that over to C1, D1 again, right? So we went through 2, and now we're going to do the same thing for 3. And so that's going to be a new ground that we're going to call O2 double prime and O4 double prime, right? So you see what we've done there. I'll move this guy back over there. So now we have 3 lines, right? O2, O4, O2 prime, O4 prime, O2 double prime, O4 double prime. And I don't know why they didn't put the C1, the C2, D2, and C3, D3 over on this. We totally could have, but they just left them out here. I would have put them in. Now, with these 3 grounds right here, remembering that this is the most important ground, this is the original one, the one we want to make eventually as our as the main ground, we can synthesize a mechanism that's as if this is the coupler, right? So just like we did with all the other ones, we found ground links for this thing as if it's a coupler. Boom. And so now E1, F1, as they've labeled this, can move between E2 and F2 and E3 and F3, right? So it's a 4-bar linkage, and it can move between there. Now we can move on to example 3.8, which says, well, that's great, but let's do the inversion of that. Let's take that same mechanism, but now instead of E1, F1 is, instead of that being the coupler, make it the ground, invert it, right? So there you go, right there. We have now taken, which was what was the ground, which is G to H, is now the coupler, right? And now we have legs. So you'll recall though that E1 F1 was actually O2 O4. The original thing that we're setting out to do was to use O2 and O4. We turned it into the coupler, and then we inverted it and made it into the ground. Boom. Now it's the ground. The E1 F1 is, but it was still O2 O4. But now we can make a extension onto this coupler. What's happened here is this coupler will make a motion that coincides with the original C1, D1, C2, D2, and C3, D3. Unfortunately, so here's what they show in the book. Now, I've actually moved them over from this graphic. If you were to look at this example, they move them over to the side. This is an ugly result, but it does achieve the thing it wants to. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to ask you to do this, is because I question its usefulness, but it's something to recognize. I left it out previously because I didn't have time for it in previous semesters, but I thought it was worthwhile going through just as for your information. So here's the mechanism as they've drawn it, and here's what it looks like when you animate it. And if you can see, I went ahead and made this a full rotation. And I think perhaps I should have put a driving dyad on it instead to make sure that it can only go, that we restrain it so it only goes in one direction. But you can see that it does pass through all 3 of these, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the motion that we want to keep. And because it was a recent one, I should be able to open it without much trouble and be able to just go through it and move the link around instead of animating it. So let's see. So in order to get from the C1 D1 down to the C2 D2, it had to jump. It had to go upwards and down, and then it had to go down and around over, right? And I didn't check to see if this was Grashof. I think it might not be. I think I'm able to move it, but Yeah, no, it seems like it's not getting stuck. It's close though, right? So let's see. Let's go in this direction, right? So it's going to go up and then down. Okay, no, I guess that's the direction we already went. So let's go in this direction, right? So it goes down. Well, now it really okay. Now it goes to 3 first, and then it goes up. And then it goes up. Okay, yeah. Either way you go, it's taking a weird kind of pathway to get there. I don't know how useful that is. We'll see some weirdness that comes up with motion gen in the next class, which is a nice little utility to try to synthesize these mechanisms. But it does the task, desirable task. But who's to say if whatever this thing was for, whatever machine needed to go through these 3 positions, I kind of doubt that it wanted us to go in that crazy motion. But anyway, that was the first part of this. You could take the first example and then some additional changes to that example. So let's see which problem was that. That was example 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, all together into one video. Talk to you soon.